Hello and welcome to Digital Transformation and AI for Humans with your host Emi. In this podcast, we delve into how technology intersects with leadership, innovation, and most importantly, the human spirit. Each episode features visionary leaders who understand that at the heart of success is the human touch, nurturing a winning mindset, fostering emotional intelligence, and building resilient teams. In today's episode, we explore the impact of GenAI and dive into transformative use cases and AI agents driving business growth. My wonderful guest is Amir Elion from Israel, living in Stockholm. Amir is AI adoption and strategy advisor, generative AI expert, innovation teacher, author, and speaker. Ex-Amazon Innovation Program Lead and Business Owner, CEO of Think Big Leaders. Hello, Amir. I'm happy to have you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, and very happy to be here and excited to join you on this fascinating conversation about transformation AI and, not to forget, humans.
Awesome. So am I. Let's start the conversation and transform not just our technologies, but our ways of thinking and leading. Interested in connecting or collaborating? Find more information in the description. Subscribe and stay tuned for more episodes. Amir, to start with, could you please tell us a few words about yourself, your background, your journey, and why did you choose to work with these exciting technologies and be in the area of AI and innovation?
Yeah, thank you. So I think it's a combination of luck, some interesting choices along the way, and maybe opportunities that I picked up. I didn't plan on landing where I am now. I kind of every few years, when I felt I needed to move on and I needed to do something different, and I wanted to develop, I would look for the next thing. And looking back, what that journey led me. So I started with, in education and leading a company that did training at schools and for teachers. Then I moved to the corporate world. I was at Teva Pharmaceuticals. I led the training there. In between, I also did like innovation consulting, and I did a nonprofit gig for 2 or 3 years. I was in a couple of other organizations such as Motorola, so corporate world. But then I was a bit restless, so I moved to the kind of more startup, agile world where I led the products at one was a SaaS learning solutions, and the other was a virtual and augmented reality, which was great. I really enjoyed the time at the startups and building things from the ground up with lots of moving parts. And then I ended up at Amazon a bit over 5 years ago, which was a great culmination of many of the things that I've tried to do, combining my experience in learning and development and helping people grow, which was my first role at Amazon, leading the training and certification team in Israel. Then the ability to innovate at Amazon. And obviously, technology. I don't know how people realize how much Amazon is a technology company and an innovation company. So that was a fascinating environment for me. And then having the opportunity to move here to Sweden and to Stockholm and to lead the innovation program at Amazon. And what I loved most about it, that it wasn't an internal facing role, it was external facing. So I had a lot of opportunities to speak to many companies who are kind of struggling with that kind of question. How do we innovate? How do we move quickly? How do we scale innovation? So for me, it was like a great way to bring many of the things that I've learned along the way, both in startups and corporates, and in learning and developing people into one role. But then after 5 years at Amazon, I felt it was a good time to try things on my own. I did know that we want to stay in Sweden. We love Sweden and Stockholm, so we are still here. And I opened up my own company, which is called Think Big Leaders. And I'm trying to help leaders, people, organizations think bigger, achieve bigger things, do better things for themselves, for their organizations, and hopefully for the world as well.
I absolutely love your story and your company's mission and your vision as well. Can you share your learnings from Amazon on building innovation mechanisms that enable growth?
Yeah, so it's worthwhile spending a few minutes on explaining that term, innovation mechanisms, right? And why I think it's critical. Because many leaders, they take the approach of, if we just say innovation and we recruit people that are supposedly innovative, they've done innovative things in the past, that will help us innovate. One thing I've learned before Amazon and maybe at Amazon at a greater extent is good intentions are not enough. It's not enough to repeat a message and ask people, innovate, do things differently. It's like a teacher standing in the classroom and telling the students, write creatively. But okay, why didn't we do that before? I mean, how is that different than what we were supposed to be before that, right? So people come to their jobs, they want to succeed, they want to do good things for their business, for themselves, for their role, for their customers, right? But then it's hard. It's hard to do it. There's not enough resources. There's not enough time. It's very hard to change habits, right? I'm used to doing things like this. Innovating, by definition, is getting out of your comfort zone, right? So how do you help people, even if they want to, how do you help them innovate? And that comes with mechanisms. That's kind of, I think, the thing that Amazon understood very well and built into their culture and into their operating model, mechanisms that help people turn good intentions into actual results and actions, right? So in the case of Amazon, there's one mechanism, it's called working backwards. It's meant to ensure that you start any innovation and then you keep track on that innovation when it's focused on the customer. So it's working backwards from customer needs. And there's several steps and several artifacts you use to make that mechanism work. But in essence, and you don't have to copy Amazon's way. I mean, it's just one way. If you want innovation to happen and you want to happen at scale, you have to build a mechanism. And by the way, I'm also a member of Innovationsledarna, the Innovation Association of Sweden. And, lots of people there have been just trying to do just that. It has been for many, it's been around for more than 10 years now. There's a body of knowledge that's being shared between the members. There's systematic ways of innovating. So people there have been involved in writing the recently released ISO standard for innovations, which tries to bring, basically it's a mechanism for making sure, it doesn't mean that there is one way of doing innovation, right? You might have your innovation centered in one place or like in a lab, or maybe you want it at the edge. You have to think about it, but it will not happen by itself. You have to think out what mechanism will ensure the right behaviors and will help people turn those habits into actual results and actions.
Sounds amazing. And actually, I made myself a birthday present by becoming a member of Innovationsledarna this year as well. It is really important to have such organization which is supporting innovation. There are no doubts that GenAI represents incredible opportunities for business growth. What are some of the most impactful use cases of GenAI you have implemented or maybe overseen that significantly contributed to business growth?
Yeah, so I would divide it into two domains or spaces, and I've done both with customers. The first one is, boosting productivity, right? That's kind of internal focus, and it can apply to any of your work streams. It can be in customer service, it can be in, R&D, in sales. So the use cases there are, where can we augment people and help people in their routine tasks, in their workflows, with better data, faster information, real-time insights. When a salesperson or a customer service person is talking to a customer, can we help them? Can we support them by pulling in data and listening to the customer, listening to the conversation, helping them make the right decisions, the right recommendations, or in some cases, maybe even letting AI do some of the things for them, right? So that's one family of use cases, you might call it, right? Productivity in each of the work streams or functions. It could also apply to HR and other areas as well. The second is creating value for your customers and your stakeholders in general, right? So that would be, can we inject AI into our products or into the digital channels where we communicate with our customers and our suppliers and our distributors and whoever is partnering with us, so that we help them in their daily challenges and needs, right? So can we leverage the AI capabilities to bring them the data that they need, to recommend things for them, to do things, so to draft things for them. So take an example, right? If a customer needs to report an insurance claim about something, right? And we can very easily help them. I don't know if they upload the photos or they just talk and say like two things, and we can suggest, well, here's some things that would help make your claim go faster through the system, right? Because we have all the information. And that can be easy, and that is just one example. Could be for any other, if they're looking for a product, or if they need to be trained about something, using something correctly. So many ways and so many use cases for helping your stakeholders, and not just customers, like as I said, suppliers, partners, distributors in their work. So that's the other family or domain that I would recommend looking at if you want to. And these could be applied and implemented relatively quickly with today's technology, and you can convert them to value very quickly.
Sounds very interesting, and I like how you are clustering those cases so that it's easier to apply them in real life according to the needs of the company. How do you think the latest version of OpenAI o1 will change the AI landscape? Let's dive even deeper. What do you think are the implications of the new reasoning engines and agents overall?
Yeah, and it's worthwhile noting. Today we're talking about this model, o1 by OpenAI reasoning. By the time you publish this, there may be some other crazy tool out there, right? But it's good to generalize, right?
True.
So in general, the capability of the tools will get more sophisticated, better, faster, cheaper, right? The cost of these right now, o1 is pretty expensive, but with time, it will get cheaper, or there will be competing models, that reasoning capabilities that will be cheaper. So this will continue to happen. And as we can see with this model, they will get more sophisticated. It will not just be, okay, ask me a question, I'll give you an answer, even if it's based on some of the data of your organization. Now I can help you in more sophisticated tasks, maybe in the near future, even complete research tasks and more multi-step activities, and take it to agents as well, right? It's going to go also to agents, and some of the things are going to be autonomous, right? And how are we aligning? The question of alignment obviously comes up when this comes in. So I think for leaders, what they need to understand is this is going to continue to evolve, and you shouldn't just latch on to the latest thing, right? If you now build your entire plan on the reasoning models, tomorrow you're going to be behind, because there's going to be new things. So what I think you do need to do to build your capabilities to keep up with these new things that come out. And those capabilities, can mean different things. First of all, you need to have some people scouting out and understanding what's happening. You need to go to conferences. You need to listen to podcasts such as yours, right? And you need to play around with the tools and maybe have some people and experts, maybe your technical teams, discovering what can be done. And then you need to build those, we talked about mechanisms. You need to build the way of converting whatever you discover, those insights that come in, into products or internal boosters. So what you need to do is build those muscles, right? How can we learn quickly what's happening? How can we convert quickly? Do we have, like, for example, like teams that are helping other teams build stuff? Do we want this to happen at the edge? How do we make this securely, right? There's regulation coming. How do we keep on top of the regulation? How do we make sure that things are done correctly? How do we put governance in place? So definitely as leaders, I would say this is one big piece of your role. But at the same time, I would also challenge you to use those tools, again, responsibly yourself, because then you will open your mind to what is possible. You will push your teams, but you will also be able to talk to them. Oh, I've seen this new technique or this new capability out there. Have we tried this? I haven't. As a leader, you might say, well, I don't know really, but I had a taste, and I think we should make a meal out of this, right? So try it yourself. Push your own limits. Don't be afraid, because if you're afraid, this will trickle down to your team. If you're daring, if you're experimenting in a responsible way and thoughtful, and if you're sharing what you're doing, that's what I'm trying to do, right? I try things myself. I fail. I share it with others. And then from their comments, their questions, I learn even more. So, yeah.
This is really important. And it's so good that you mention it. It is important to try and test and build up your own understanding and experience in using those different tools. Because, for example, when I'm thinking about this latest OpenAI 01 version versus the for Omni ChatGPT version, I see that it became, for me, in many cases of my application, so much more boring to apply it when I need more creativity, and it starts telling me about, by the way, did you think about this? You need to take into consideration that, and then it becomes so long, and it's like, think about everything, and it becomes so complicated that I'm just like, oh, I'd
It's
better
becoming one
just
of those like those boring consultants that tell you all the things you need to know. Yeah, maybe hey,
exactly.
be
And then
lighter, don't complicate stuff.
sometimes you just need it short and concise.
Just say
And
yes or no. Yeah,
so
good
it
point.
exactly depends on your needs. And you have
Exactly.
to know where the limitations are and what is the strength of exactly this solution, so that you can take the best out of those worlds and mix and match and be efficient, powerful, and impactful. So that is absolutely crucial. Amir, how do AI agents differ from traditional AI applications, and what unique advantages do they offer for businesses looking to scale and innovate?
Yeah, so I think that a few of the new main things that are different about agents. One, we give them or we delegate to them some ability to take action, right? It's not just talking. It's not that chat window that gives us advice and then tells us copy this or do this or write this presentation. They have more and more capabilities to do things on our behalf. Send emails, update things in our CRM, right? So the fact that we delegate some of the action to them is a critical thing to understand. That comes with risk and responsibility and some guardrails and audit trails that you need to have in place. I think the second thing is we now have a decision point where we need to decide how much autonomy do we give them, those agents, right? Do they need to ask for permission for every action that I just mentioned? Or is it in just some cases? When it is, well, in the middle of the night, I don't want it to wake me up at the middle of the night if there is something happening, right? So when do I give it? autonomy? What degree of autonomy do we give those agents? So that's the other unique characteristic that comes with agents. And I think the fact that they are able to learn, maybe, because large language models, you train them, you use them. Yes, they get to know you. They might have some memory, but I think because these agents interact with the world in different ways, they learn what works, what doesn't work. Some of them already have capabilities of changing the way that they even do things in order to achieve their missions or their kind of stated goals. And that, again, comes with interesting implications. Will we always know what they've changed and how that impacted their behavior, if you will? So I think, there's more things, but I think these three things capture maybe the three important differences, right? Action, autonomy, and continuous learning and change of the agents themselves. These are things that have big implications.
That is spot on. I totally agree with you. In general, agents are still in the early stage and not mature yet, but still, what best practices would you recommend for organizations looking to integrate GenAI and AI agents into their existing business processes?
Yeah, interesting. So again, as you said, this is early days. We don't have templates. We don't have best practices. And also, agents haven't been defined yet completely, right? They keep changing and evolving, and we're going to see different types of agents maybe. But if you are thinking of agents, I would say one thing: don't start with agents. Start with something else. And don't be tempted. More, it's a bigger bet. If you start with agents, take your time with it. Right? Think about it more thoroughly. Make due diligence. Understand what you're doing. Maybe use some people who know what they're doing. Because it is because of what we just said. Autonomy, action. And the ability to change as they go, it is a bigger risk. So if you are starting with that, or if you're moving to that, graduating to that after doing other things with Gen AI or AI in general, understand the difference and take the right measures to prepare. Again, coming back to autonomy and action, think, where is the human, right? And where is the critical judgment, input, governance, review, however you want to call it, that works together with the agent, right? Don't just send out agents to the world and let them do all the things for you. I mean, I think pretty much everybody understands that, but still be intentional about where you think humans are critical. And on the flip side, there's things you need to do to make the humans feel comfortable about working with the agents and trusting the agents. So maybe they need some transparency about what the agent is doing and why. Okay. Maybe it's going to be a gradual thing, starting with less autonomy and as people build their trust, right? Today, I take cars on demand sometime, right? And cars have evolved quite a lot since I did my license quite a number of years ago. And now, basically, I can let go of some of the things. Maybe I need to take care of the wheel and still control. But and I think car manufacturers are very aware of that, and this is what they're building into those systems. They are building our trust in those systems, and now I feel more comfortable letting the car decide, when to brake and when to accelerate. And with time, until we have maybe autonomous cars completely, people are going to trust that more because the systems are also getting better, right? So it's kind of a dance between humans and agents, and we need to teach both sides how to make that dance, how to dance together.
And that is so well formulated. And yes, that's the truth. It takes time, and we have to get adapted to the new world and new reality as well as human beings. But at the same time, in the meantime, technologies are developing drastically so that they can offer us more hope that when we trust, it will not include some risks or harm for ourselves. So
Yes.
it is really important, and I see that machine human combo, or human machine, of course, because human should be always front and center. It is going to create fantastic synergy effects in the future, and it is already creating it today. And we have to be mindful about how we develop that capability and how we unfold this game. Could you highlight a particular success story where Gen AI or maybe even AI agents transformed the business idea into a game-changing opportunity? And on top of that, what were the key factors that led to its success?
Yeah, so I can mention one customer where I worked with, and it started by mapping, working with leadership and having some interviews and understanding where they are, what is their level of maturity, what are the opportunities, and we looked at both uh, internal productivity opportunities and customer experience and value. We ended up, for the sake of the example, initially focusing on internal productivity, building that trust of the organization and the capability, so that later they could go out and also implement things for customers. But the specific use case was around their sales process. So they regularly receive requests for proposals, RFPs, and they need to respond to those. And that takes time. There's just a few sales people involved that have very limited capacity. And usually those RFPs have strict deadlines. We chose that process because it is a business critical process. It had a big opportunity to boost their their results, because if we could handle more RFPs faster, in a better way, higher quality, the win rate on the same amount of humans would grow, and the business would grow, and then they would be able to deliver better for their customers as well, for more customers. So long story short, I stepped in to also help lead the team as a kind of an interim product manager, and we analyzed that process. How can we help them? And we ended up semi-automating, I would say, parts of the process. So a salesperson would upload the RFP document, and this could be 80, 100 pages long, either Swedish or English, and it would extract the requirements from that long document. And of course, you have to make sure that it's accurate, it's not hallucinating, and so on. And then it would match it, and this is all just a few minutes instead of days and weeks, with the consultants and the capabilities that the organization had, and said, hey, for this requirement, this role, we can offer these two people who have this and this experience according to their CV, according to their record and the projects that they did in the past. And it would save the salespeople so much time and emails to 50 people and missing out the deadline and things like that. So that ended up being just a few minutes or maybe under an hour of identifying which RFPs we should go for. Can we propose a good solution? And later you can also take it, we didn't go there yet, but it was around, what are the right pricing strategies, according to this type of customer, maybe previous projects, and so forth. So that was a very, and there were many things that went into making this successful. For example, around UX, right? How do you build? Where do you put this? Do you put it inside Teams, or do you put it as a separate web page? What kind of transparency, like we said before, how do you make the users trust this? How do you show them, oh, this is a so-and-so percent match with the requirement, and here you should do this and that. So lots of interesting questions that came up as we were developing this, exactly around the points that we were discussing. What's the role of the human? What's the role of the AI? How do you make that kind of collaboration work.
Incredible opportunities, and these technologies are so impactful. So I would like to mention the challenges connected to that as well. What common challenges do businesses face when adopting GenAI and AI agents, and how can they effectively overcome these obstacles?
Yeah, so one challenge is that people are afraid. And when I say people, it could be the leaders themselves. It could be that the leaders already kind of passed that fear, or they've decided we're going to do it anyway, but then their teams are afraid. And that fear can come from different places. It can be fear of, lack of knowledge. I don't know what it does. I don't control it. I don't want to touch it, right? There's, who's responsible, all kinds of, privacy, all kinds of things that are, genuine reasons to have some fear. So fear is one. And then how to overcome it is coming back to things that we mentioned before. You need to give information. You need to train people. You need to explain to them. You need to let them try things out and see that it's not like a weird alien beast that we know nothing about. There are some things that we can't control. There are some things that are different than what we used to do, but we can learn them and we can understand how to work with those limitations and those constraints, and we can make better decisions. It's actually better to do it this way than somebody saying, okay, from now on we're going to use this AI system, and then everybody's using it because they're forced, but they don't use it with the wisdom and the knowledge that they have. So fear, and the way to overcome it is like training, knowledge, experimenting is one. The other challenge, I think, is, and I see that quite a lot, moving from pilot to scale. Right, so you see more. Everybody's experimenting, or lots of companies and people are experimenting with this, and they're happy and it works, and they get some license, they do some co-pilot, they do some things. But then when you move to scale, and you want things to work at scale, that's a different challenge, because then it's about making sure that it's reliable, repeatedly, making sure that it doesn't drift over time, making sure that the cost doesn't outweigh the return, right? So that is another struggle that I see companies come across sooner or later when they start to do AI and generative AI. And that comes to how to handle it. It's actually, that's not very different from how you think about products and scale in other cases. You need to understand, it's a different phase. You need to build for scale. You need to think about it early on. If it's going to scale, how are we going to manage it? So yeah, but it is a challenge, because people expect, oh, this pilot work, let's roll it out. Not so much. And again, the other thing, which is maybe unique to the case of GenAI, when you scale, you also need to take in consideration, how do you communicate it? If it's internal, how do you communicate from now on, we're going to use this and this, that tool, or this and that approach with AI enhanced? You need to make people feel comfortable about it, not fear that it's going to take their role or whatever. And if you're rolling out to customers, even more so, right? We're going to tell them, we're going to use your data. We're going to use that. A chatbot is going to talk to you instead of a human. And so you need to communicate very clearly why you're doing things, how are you keeping the data safe, and what are your plans forward. Basically, be transparent.
I love this. And actually, that's why I'm helping leaders and teams to develop their soft skills, because specifically in the tech area, people is oftentimes missing those soft skills, and fear is usually one of those things which is stopping from achieving new goals or reaching out to the new heights. And this chain between fear and courage, which is going through bravery and confidence. I've seen it from the inside so many times and took individuals from fear to courage. And without courage, it is impossible to implement new technologies. It is impossible to be in the front line, and it is absolutely impossible to dare taking the next step. And in our case, when we can't actually see how all this is going to develop in 5-10 years, so it's in a way a leap of faith. And that's why we really, as leaders, as those who are working with those new technologies and work with the pilots and everything what can become a part of our new reality, we need so many soft skills and a new mindset and training on new areas which weren't so needed before. They were always needed, but they weren't this critical. They weren't defining the outcomes in form of make it or break it as much as today or tomorrow. So this is really valuable and crucial what you mentioned. So thank you for highlighting it. Why do you think so many AI pilot projects fail? How do you measure the return on investment of AI initiatives and AI agent implementations?
Yeah. So, I mean, we mentioned some of the reasons, but I think maybe worthwhile mentioning another one is people start with the technology. So, and maybe even a specific tool that they, experienced and were impressed by. And then they forget about, actually, you shouldn't start with a tool or the technology. You should start with the problem you're trying to solve, and the goals that you're trying to achieve. And, if you're also thinking about customers and you're in the private sector, you should start with the customers and what you want to help them with. And that's even before the pilot, right? So if your pilot, what it should serve you is to let you test your assumptions about, the value that it brings. The pilot shouldn't be the first step towards production. I mean, it's a bit contradictory what I just said, but what I meant is, if you do a pilot, and even if it succeeds, technically, it doesn't mean that you need to now go and take this into production, build whatever features are still missing and take this into production. What the pilot should teach you is this the right thing to build? And if it is the right thing to build, okay, then what do we need to do in order to scale it? So I think, I don't know if you call it like, why do pilot projects fail? The pilot may succeed technically, right? If you have good engineers, if you have some luck, and also in pilot stage, you're not at scale, right? You have some very specific data that you're using. You don't have constraints so much, right? You don't need to cost. You may not see the implications of cost yet. Some things will only be revealed once you scale. But if you use that pilot and come into that mindset, as you said it, right? The pilot is actually teaching us, if we're building the right thing, then we will when we do scale, we will come across issues. There will be trouble, technical issues, legal issues, cost issues. But if we already learned in the pilot that this is worthwhile doing, people are delighted because we are changing the way things work, then we will have more motivation to overcome these obstacles. So I would say use the pilot for the right reasons to learn what you should learn. And then, scaling will be, it will make more sense.
So true. And what about the return on investment? How do you measure that part?
Yeah. I would say at this stage, the return is not just nominal in terms of money, right? It's actually, in many cases, it will be hard to translate into money. And I know to tell this to leaders, you should do this even if you can't show it on the bottom line. It's not an easy thing to do. But because this is an exploratory phase, because we don't yet have the business models, we don't have yet the best practices, we don't have yet the templates. It's not the operational phase, right? If you're in operational phase, ROI is easier. You can measure in and out, and even make nice Excel sheets that either plan or maybe show in hindsight that maybe there's great ROI or medium ROI or whatever. This is a different stage, right, of the technology. And I think the biggest risk, if you don't do this, is you will stay far behind. And this is your challenge as a leader, right? You need to go and convince and take the risk upon yourself. I'm going to invest in something that we are not yet sure how and when the return on investment will be. I'm not saying take 100 billion like the big companies are doing and build a new data center to build the next model, but take some risk that is big enough to teach you what you need to learn, but not too big to kill you, right? Or to completely derail you, because this is a time to take a bit more risk around this opportunity. Calculated risk, but still more risk that he would usually do.
I really hoped to hear this kind of advice from you and this kind of evaluation, because I think it is important to normalize this situation for many leaders who still in their mindset are operating only in terms of the bottom line, and it requires a lot to lift up above that way of evaluating the benefits and opportunities and win the competition. Because if you don't invest into it and your competitors are investing into it, you are going to stay behind. And maybe you won in terms of return on investment exactly right now, but what will be the end of this story or the outcomes? And you are going to pay the price. And that is also a part of the truth. Looking ahead, what future applications of GenAI overall and AI agents in particular do you believe will be transformative for business growth in the next 2 to 3 years? I would like to ask about maybe up to 5 years. I don't even mention 10, but let's keep it sweet and simple.
Well, in terms of the pace that things are going in AI, 2 to 3 years is like 20 years we had a decade ago, right? So you're basically asking me to predict 20 years in the future if in the old pace of things. But yes, I think it's pretty safe to say that it's going to be transformative. In some industries, it's going to be like in 2 years, it's going to be completely different. Think about the content creation industry. And content creation could be, for marketing, advertising, entertainment, and other content creation, books, and whatever other content creation is happening out there. That's going to be completely transformed. So some industries are going to feel the shift earlier and faster. I think software development will soon go in a similar direction. Some industries, some roles where we have the right data, where there's more incentives, when there's more actors moving forward, I think we'll see massive changes in the next 2 years or 3. Some which are more traditional and are more rooted in physical things, maybe, such as manufacturing, logistics, also some industries that are unfortunately entrenched, and education, maybe government. It will take a bit more time, but because if you think back about what is the underlying driver here, the fact that we have now intelligence on tap. In many cases, we can tap into the collective intelligence of humanity, right, including all the geniuses and all the not so geniuses of the world, and use that, at a fraction of a cost, at an enormous scale and speed. That's going to transform many industries. The other element I would add here is the multimodality. Right now, that these models are not just language models. We have image, visual recognition, video coming soon, physical, robotics, material science. I think it's also going to transform. Maybe that's on a longer horizon, the kind of the pharmaceutical, chemical industry. So if you're in manufacturing and those industries, the physical industries, and definitely, the way that robots go around, Amazon has done it for a long time already, right? The way that robots are in the supply, the logistics centers is incredible. But it's going to proliferate, and agents. Oh, that's a harder one to answer. Because it comes back to the autonomy and the action. I don't want to be like a prophet. I really don't know. It's going to be massive. The only advice I can give there is just keep on your toes, keep learning, keep listening to podcasts, keep trying things out. Obviously, you can't implement all of it. Not all of it should be implemented for your business and your context. But this is a time to be alert, and so be alert. And we'll see in 2 years where we are. And maybe I want to suggest and maybe ask people, try to influence where you can that we go in the right directions, because this can go just by not noticing, not putting in the right governance, and not leading this. Right, this is for leaders. If you're not leading this, it might go off the rails. So if we do lead this, we have such an incredible opportunity to change the way things work, to avoid bias, to avoid control by bad actors. So it's a time to step up to the challenge, I would say.
Thank you for this amazing reminder. On top of all the recommendations and advice you just shared, this is the part of wisdom we have to spread in the world and just highlight not only the fantastic opportunities and the capabilities of these technologies, but also the fact that we stand for the outcomes. We stand for the responsibility of how our tomorrow is going to look like. And as humans should and have to remain front and center and be in charge for the future, it is a super valuable reminder. Thank you so much, Amir, for being with us today in the studio and sharing all your wisdom, experience, and deep knowledge. It's such a pleasure. Really appreciated.
Thank you for the opportunity. And, I learned from this session as well. Hopefully we made some people think, and, people are always welcome to reach out to me as well. And I learned from whatever interaction I have with them as well. So thank you again for having this, for, driving the change yourself and supporting people. And I'm glad I could be part of this.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us on Digital Transformation and AI for Humans. I am Emi, and it was enriching to share this time with you. Remember, the core of any transformation lies in our human nature, how we think, feel, and connect with others. It is about enhancing our emotional intelligence, embracing a winning mindset, and leading with empathy and insight. Subscribe and stay tuned for more episodes where we uncover the latest trends in digital business and explore the human side of technology and leadership. Until next time, keep nurturing your mind, fostering your connections, and leading with heart.